Hey everybody, Devin from Dr. Garage here. So at this point, you've been to a drift event or two. You've done some spectating. Maybe you've even sat shotgun and did some ride-alongs.
Hell yeah, bro, that was so sick.
Either way, you decide that you love the sport and you want to get into it. People ask me all the time, hey, how did you get started? Or what do I need to do to get started? Or they ask what kind of cars to look for, or they ask about how they can modify the car they have for drifting and so on. People ask me, people ask other drifters, they ask it on Facebook and on forums, and pretty much I've come up with 2 rules that I recommend to everybody when they're buying their very first drift car. And the reason for these 2 rules is because it's going to maximize the amount of money in your pocket. It's also going to maximize the amount of seat time you get. So rule number 1, buy a common conventional drift car. And no, don't go looking for an 8.6. The 8.6 isn't a common conventional drift car anymore. I've been using this car for about 7 years, and every drift event I've been to, I've been the only 8.6, or I'll be one of 2. Pretty much to determine a common conventional drift car, go out to a drift event, count the amount of cars there are of each different kind that are in the lineup. So you'll typically see things like Miatas, S13s, S14s, E36 BMW, E46 BMW, and so on. Pretty much just go find something there's multiples at a drift event, and that's what you want to shoot for. Now the reason for this is that there's going to be tons of parts available. There can be parts you can buy off the shop, or there's going to be parts that you can buy that are used, or you can find tutorials on how to modify your stock parts to make it drift well. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. When you buy something that's non-conventional, say like a mini truck you want to get out drifting, there's tons of time that you're going to be spending re-engineering something. And for the most part, it's not worth it unless you have a passion for that specific vehicle. To me, it's much more valuable to get out there and spend your time in the seat of a car versus spending your time in the garage building it. This car, it was a common car about 10 years ago. It's not anymore. This last year, I've been through 3 different angle kits, custom angle kits that I've built. I'm still changing it. So don't do that. Buy something that's already tried and true. You can ask for advice because people run it all the time. Or you can find parts available. It's hard to find parts. All right, now rule number 2. Buy something that's reliable, that runs and drives. Once again, maximize the amount of money in your pocket, maximize the amount of seat time. If the car already drives, that's one less thing to worry about. It's one less thing to worry about spending money on, and that's one less thing to keep you from drifting. Now, I see people go out and buy a shell because it's cheap, and they think, okay, I want a ton of power, that's why I'm buying a shell, because I'm going to just pull the stock engine and drop something else in it. I might as well buy something that's not running already. For the most part, you don't need to do that. You don't need a ton of power to drift. You don't need a big V8. You don't need a 1UZ or an LS or a 1J or a 2J and so on. You just need an engine that runs and drives, or an engine that runs and a vehicle that drives. So, for example, there's a guy I drift with here in South Carolina. He has a single cam K24, makes maybe 100 horsepower, pretty much bone stock. It might have a header on it or something, but it runs and drives. It's reliable, and he kills it out there. Now, maybe at a certain point you've built up skill level, you're driving it faster, bigger courses, you need more power, but if you're getting started, you don't need that. Just buy something that you can get started with. That's really what you want to do. Now, I know there's going to be some people that disagree with me because, well, hang on, I bought a non-conventional drift car and look at me, and that's great. There's different caliber of people in the world, and there's different people who have different goals and aspirations. So, for example, when I bought this car to get into drifting, my goal wasn't just to get into drifting. I love this car. I love 8.6s, and I want one. So I bought one that was a shell, it was non-running, non-driving, and I took it home, and I got it running, and I did all the brakes on it, I did all this work on it to get it running and driving, and it took me 5 years. 5 years to get it to the point where it's reliable enough to drift. And another 2 years after that to get it really dialed in, because I'm doing all kinds of custom stuff to it. Don't do that for your first drift car. For your first drift car, buy something that's conventional and typical. Buy something that runs and drives, because you're going to maximize the amount of seat time you get, and you're going to save so much money. It's so much more fun to be out there in the seat of the car, sliding with your buddies, than it is to be sitting and watching your buddies slide from the sidelines. If you got any questions for me, make sure to leave them in the comments. Like, share, comment, whatever. Follow me on social media, Dr. Garage on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And let me know if you got any questions or any feedback or whatever. I know that these 2 rules don't apply to everybody, but it's a good rule of thumb. Thanks for watching.